You're watching the Double X Factor, and Crossword Bookstore is getting ready to launch a new book today. It's called Battle for Bitora. It's written by Anuja Chauhan. In fact, it's her second book. She's our guest this week on the show. And even if you haven't read Anuja's books, I'm sure you're familiar with her advertising work. Lines like Ye Dil Mange Mo, nothing official about it, be a little illogical. All these lines that are part of popular lingo, you can blame or credit Anuja for. Anuja, lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And the first question is, why did you chuck up the advertising career?
I haven't chucked it up. I'm having a bit of a sabbatical. A little distance makes the relationship better. It's that kind of a thing. It's just searching for a larger canvas, you know, because in advertising it's always 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Now it's even like 20 seconds sometimes, you know.
It's all that expensive media time, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's a budget, and there's a celebrity, and there is a client, and there's, you know, a product story to tell. So the whole thing was, the quest was to look for something where I have complete control, and, you know, and I don't have to worry about stuff like, oh, but we've only got set for 3 hours, and oh, but, you know, this is too expensive, and stuff like that. So it was just to have that, to have like a canvas where you can do whatever you want, and nobody can tell you that.
You saw our theme, you saw our top story today, and it is about this growing trend of chick-lit, for lack of a better word. Do you agree with the title chick-lit?
I don't like tags, you know, like, because I find that my richest discoveries in reading have always been when I've just sort of disregarded the genres and just picked up something and read it. And so I don't like tags, you know, like, oh, this is for girls, this is for boys, this is for old people, you know. I'm not comfortable with that. A lot of stuff I like is actually meant for children. So I have issues with chick-lit, dick-lit, whatever lit, you know. So that's my take.
Both your books are replete with references to mass culture. So whether it's advertising, so in the first book, I think there are a lot of references to Ye To Bada Toying Hai from
my favorite. I'm like a big fan.
You know, or Rajniti, the film, and you know, it's set in Karol Bagh, one of your books. So this referencing to mass culture, is that something that you think is resonating a lot with your readers? What's the feedback you're getting?
Yeah, the feedback is that it's resonating, very much so. You know, a lot of people like that. But, you know, I mean, yeah, it does. I mean, it resonates.
The other interesting thing in your books is the fact that your women are not described fully. So I don't really know exactly how the heroine looks, and I quite like that, because even if there is a description, it is a bit self-deprecatory, and it's from the point of view of the heroine herself, and I think that's the way women tend to describe themselves. No matter how lovely they are, they always describe themselves as with what doesn't work for them, isn't it?
Yeah, see, the thing is, once you're writing a first-person narrative, somebody who says, oh, I'm so beautiful and my hair falls prettily and my mouth is really large and luscious, will sound like a complete jerk. Who wants to read a whole book about that character, right? So I think that the character is more lovable if she's got like all these issues, and it's a fact. You know, you take the most beautiful woman in the world today, any like big actress you work with in an ad, she's got issues about how she looks, you know. So I think that's real, and I think that's also part of the whole first-person thing, because if you're describing yourself, you can't come across obnoxious.
What is your take on the woman that you're writing for and about?
See, I don't have a target audience. I get enough of that in advertising, you know, so that's really not what I do. I'm basically writing books that I like to read, and then I'm hoping that there are enough people like me of both gender who will like the book, and therefore I will make lots of 30 rupees. You
don't think that these books are seen as what is popularly called chick-lit, which is that books for women?
I don't know, this whole chick-lit thing gets me very uncomfortable, because in India it's sort of being associated with dissing the whole arranged marriage setup. You know, it's about dissing the arranged marriage setup, and it's about making some kind of presentation in some corporate boardroom. You know, to me, that seems to be kind of what seems to be defined as chick-lit, which I have issues with. I'm trying to write love stories with fresh settings. With Zoya, I tried to write a very, you know, older alpha male, kind of a younger girl, and Injini, it's more about, you know, childhood friendship. So it's much more, they're both the same age. It's like friends who have chemistry, you know. So I'm just trying to write love stories with different settings, and just like a love story happens, you know, you'll never just fall in love in a vacuum.
So they are love stories essentially?
Yeah, I would say they're love stories, and I feel a lot of the conventional chick lit, or whatever we call it, there's like the good looking guy is always the bad guy. You know, why is that, yeah? Why can't the good-looking guy also be a nice guy? So if he's good-looking, you know कि हाँ ये कमीना निकलेगा, and this, you know, this other plain guy sort of hanging in the background by the end of the story.
The guy with the inner beauty.
Yeah, inner beauty. That I want inner and outer both, yeah. You know, so. That is very like, I don't like this whole that, you know, the ugly guy in the background suddenly turns out to be this
So,
great.
you want inner and outer beauty. You write love stories in unusual, fresh, contemporary desi settings.
And the other thing is that, see, nobody falls in love in a vacuum, right? So, you're falling in love, meanwhile, there are issues in your workplace, there are issues with your family, there's issues with 50 other things, and that's all part of the whole thing, you know. So, for me, that's what's important. That's why I end up spilling into so many characters and backgrounds and issues. Because that's really how it happens, you know. You'll always have 50 people having a point of view on your love story.
A lot of new writing by women, even if not only for women, are not by people who set out to be writers. They're people who have had full professional careers, still have professional careers of some kind or the other. Many journalists I see are very much in demand where publishers are concerned. And then those life experiences get translated. Both your books reflect the kind of life experiences you've had, isn't it? So your first book, the protagonist is from an advertising agency. The second book, where, you know, political family, which we know you're married into. Is there a sense of thinly veiled, you know, references?
See, the thing is, you know, when you start writing and you've been writing ad jingles for 17 years and suddenly, I mean 14 years, and then suddenly you start writing fiction, it's smart to stick to what you know, right? So you start off writing about backgrounds and, you know, so it cuts down on your research a little, stuff you're familiar with, right? Yeah. So that is then, of course, I think every writer, you know, will pull from real life, and everybody does that, and I think that's good because that's where the authenticity comes from. And but you know, the characters in my books are all like mixed and mashed and little from here and little from here and amalgamated and made into a new thing. There's nobody who have cut and pasted straight into fiction, except in Ginny the dog is like that.
One final question before we take a break, and that is, what is your take on the Indian woman who's the protagonist in your book, and perhaps lightly also appreciating your books as a reader?
Well, you know, it's important that the protagonist is, it's not just about the man, you know. It's also about herself and what's up with her and questions in her head about herself that she needs to answer, and some kind of, you know, maturity she needs to achieve, a certain amount of spunk, you know, feistiness, being a walkover, being vulnerable. I think that's really the kind of girl I'm writing. I'm trying to write her differently. Maybe next time I'll do a boy's voice.
You may do a boy's voice.
Yes. I'm actually thinking about that.
So
no
more chances of you being tagged as a chicklet writer.
Then I'll be the other thing.
Chicklet writer.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you talk to advertising people from advertising. We'll take a break here, but when we come back, we're going to tell you what Chetan Bhagat, the best-selling writer, popular writer, thinks are 3 cool heroines from the book. So stay with us.